Let's cross to Canberra now and catch up with Keith Pitt, Nationals MP and former Resources Minister. Keith, energy dominated in Parliament today, but the Prime Minister and Labor generally don't seem to grasp how serious this energy price issue is, and they don't really have a plan to do anything about it except to continue with renewable energy installations.
Chris, great to be with you. And I mean, Tuesday night wasn't even amateur hour, it was the amateur half hour. You're exactly right. They've got no strategy or plan to deal with the challenges that are coming for our economy. And in fact, are here in terms of cost of living right now. They didn't do anything about that will help people right now. And in fact, the price for individuals expect cost of living for an average family to go up by some $2,000. But on energy, I mean, what a disaster. What's changed? We have a new federal Labor government and power prices will go up by some 56%. We simply can't afford that as a country.
Yeah, it's going to be just terrible, and they need a plan to fix it, and they need it fast. And hopefully Peter Dutton will have a bit of a plan in his budget reply speech tonight too. I want to have a look at a couple of other issues, though, that we haven't got to so much. One is the industrial relations laws tabled in Parliament today. Pretty complex area, complex legislation. But is this going to take us back to the bad old days of the 1970s, where we have increased union power and national strikes across industries?
Absolutely. We've seen concerns from major representatives of the business community, and it is exactly that, is a throwback to the 70s. We will see what happened in those decades where you need an extra toilet on a construction site in Melbourne and the entire construction sector goes on strike. That is incredibly bad for our economy. It's incredibly bad for investment in this country. And Labor doesn't care. They're just doing what they're told by their union masters. These were the demands for their support coming into the election, and the outcomes are now coming to fruition.
Well, this is the point, isn't there? What is the problem that they're trying to fix here? We've had a period of relative industrial harmony and efforts to clean up the construction industry. But Labor is saying the reason they want to make these changes to give the unions more of what they want is to push wages up. In other words, force bigger wage increases through the threat, at least, of strike action, which is exactly what the economy doesn't need now when inflation is the problem.
Oh, this is the incredible part, Chris. I mean, the Treasurer's own budget says there'll be no real wage increases for a couple of years. Wages will go backwards, and yet that's all they talked about for months coming to the election, and afterwards they're almost silent. And then these types of decisions, a removal of the ABCC, who was out there being a tough cop on the beat and what is a tough sector in construction, particularly with the CFMEU, all of those protections will be removed. This will be bad for productivity. Who knows what it'll do to inflation, but inflation is up, cost of living is up, interest rates are up. The only thing that's not up is people's actual wages and their ability to pay.
Yeah, well, let me get on to foreign policy, where I've been pretty complimentary towards Labor's efforts so far until they did the dirty on Israel over West Jerusalem. But they've been strong on Ukraine, and they've now announced this deal where Australian Defence Force personnel will go to the UK and in the UK train Ukrainian soldiers. Now, it's great to support Ukraine, but are there any concerns about us getting too heavily involved at the coalface in this conflict?
Well, my understanding, and I've seen a release from Andrew Hastie today, the Shadow Minister for Defence, we'll be supporting Labor on these proposals. As you'd expect, that these are bipartisan positions. But the expectation is that Australian forces will not be in the Ukraine. That's my understanding. They'll provide this training not inside the Ukrainian state. But we need the right outcome here. We need Russia to not only be defeated, but it would be better if they simply withdraw. It was the wrong decision. We've seen what the results have been right around the world in terms of impacts on economies. But we just can't let Russia do what they are doing in the Ukraine, and more power to them and more strength to their arm. They have been incredible.
All right, thanks for joining us, Keith. Appreciate it.